So, I think that's. I mean, we can talk and bellyache and go on about all the things that are wrong and how we never get a chance. It's always the elite that wins. Well, you know what? There's a system there. It's rigged against us, but until we can change the system, let's see what we can do with the system. Participate, and then maybe change it. I'd love to change it because I think the system is no good. It's a bad system. But yeah, enough of that. Enough of that. That's great news though, Dave. Is that only available in your area where you can actually purchase these linked internet accounts or?
No, not at all. You can use different service providers if you've got them. Otherwise, you can just get two from the same, which is what I've done. It doesn't. It actually. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter where they come from. You can even use a USB stick. And one of the things that I love about this thing, because I'm an IT guy, and when you find something you love, you tell everyone, and that is that if you've got a USB stick that you want to use only as your absolute backup, but you get a certain amount of data per month, you can actually say, let's use that. If it was faster than your internet, you could just say, let's use that first, and let's use its data capacity, and then no longer use it for the rest of the billing cycle.
Cool.
Yeah.
Work.
It is. It honestly is awesome. So look, hopefully next week you'll see the results of having a much faster internet. I know we've already lost a couple of packets, and our upstream now is live. We've actually gone live with our upstream now, thankfully. And so we can talk about real news, Meki.
Fantastic.
And wouldn't that be good to talk about real news, just for a change?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Well, I couldn't believe my ears this week because
Yes.
I'm going to put out there the guy's name straight up. The deceased Jeff Lash is his name. And if no one knows the depth of that story, are you strapped in? Meki, can you give a reality warning, please?
Yeah, okay. Everybody, please, strap yourselves in. Suspend all reality-altering devices. Keep your hands inside the vehicle all times, and do not stand up.
Oh, no flash photography either. That would be bad.
You love that one, don't you?
I do, because yeah, I do, because it ruins the animatronics. Now, well, it's supposed to. Who knows what it does? It scares the people watching you, or it stops it from filming you, or something. I don't know. But Jeff Lash was found deceased in his motor vehicle in the Palisades. Couldn't believe this. 2 weeks the poor deceased had been there, left there by his boss and his girlfriend. And they said, "Oh, he wasn't well when we left him, but we just, well, their story suggests that he decided to leave himself there in the car, and he's obviously hopped in the boot himself and continued to pass away, having 2 weeks of continued to pass away. Who knows what status he was in, but apparently he wasn't that bad a state. And anyway, he died.
So are you saying he was found in the boot?
He was found in the motor vehicle, in the boot. Yep. Sorry, in the what's it called, in the trunk?
Yeah,
in America.
So not actually in the driver's passenger seat or the back seat?
No, 2 weeks of being deceased in the driver's seat, people would probably notice.
So he crawled, bleeding out of his ears, into the trunk, closed it from the inside, and proceeded to expire.
Yeah. Well,
that's very...
on his own schedule, Meki. It was his own schedule.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, he decided to stay there and advised the ladies that he was with that he'd be fine. Of course, that didn't seem to be the case. No one knows how he actually died yet. They haven't released a post-mortem. But who is this fellow, Jeff Lash? Well, it's claimed he was part alien, working for a 3-letter agency, and sent here to save the world.
Yeah. But what's the kicker here?
Well, I don't know what the kicker... I'm going to throw some things out, Meki, and you help me here with which one is a kicker. Because at one of his many caches, or caches, of stored items was
Yes.
his house in the Palisades. And that is,
Yep.
if you're interested, it's 1770 Palisades Drive. All right? Go and have a look at the police tape. I bet it's still there. The 1,200 guns, valued at $5 million, were in that,
Yep.
in that residence only.
Yep.
But, are you ready? 6.5 tons of ammo.
Yes, of ammunition. That's right. That's the kicker, and that's really the kicker here, guys. None of these guns apparently were illegally obtained. They're not illegal guns.
Not,
Meaning all the serial numbers are there. So this Jeff guy, he wasn't a rich fella. Okay. He wasn't. Oh well, maybe he was. I don't know. But clearly, if you can afford $5 million worth of firearms, 5 million, and you have 6.5 tons of ammunition, that's enough to take Nicaragua. Okay, it's unbelievable.
wait for this.
Go on.
They even found modified vehicles. Vehicles modified for desert warfare.
Yep.
That's what they said. Now, the three-letter agencies aren't claiming a peep. No one has issued a press statement from any of those three-letter agencies claiming any ownership. Now, that just reeks of ownership.
Yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
they'll step away and go, huh, no, it wasn't one of ours. Sorry, can't help you.
Yeah.
We have no comment. No comment means, woohoo, guilty, hello. Yeah. But none of them have said anything. And what they should have done is immediately gone, they're all lunatics, not true, sorry. And that's it.
Do you know that he was the son of a microbiologist?
It doesn't surprise me. How many of those have died, Mickey?
Not actually more than 100 now,
Yeah.
at the latest count. And he himself enrolled at UCLA, which is University of California, LA campus, in the 80s to study to be a scientist as well. However, he dropped out. So it's curious. I tell you what, man. This is this is interesting. This is very interesting.
His lawyer, the lawyer, right? Guess what the lawyer says, and I quote, he could have been working for anyone.
Yep.
And that was in relation to the question about the three-letter agencies. Or they said he was above. He said he was thought to have worked for some place that was higher than the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
oh yeah, look. I mean, at a certain point, the acronyms actually. Yeah, the the acronyms become meaningless. In fact, there are a number of agencies I understand that in fact have no acronym. They have no letters. They're just there doing stuff, you know. And so it's just really odd. It's really odd.
Yeah, complete. That it's honestly that's one of those. Maybe he was one of the men in black.
Hey. I'm looking at pictures of. I'm going to actually share the Daily Mail. This Daily Mail. Sorry, not the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail website with you guys in the chat room, and you can see some pictures here of. He's got there's a mountain of handguns, a mountain of high-powered rifles with sniper scopes.
That's right.
And then boxes and boxes of ammunition. This is amazing stuff, guys.
I mean, 6.5 tons of ammo. That's a lot, right? And
that is a lot, sir.
It is, and you wouldn't want to have to carry that going anywhere. So,
I have to reload. Bring the truck.
Deed. It has to follow him around everywhere. So, Mickey, how much of this do you believe to be the case, like to be true? I mean, we have the facts, but where do you how far do you think this stretches?
Yeah, look, this is okay. This is a fair question, and look, we know there was a guy called Jeffrey Allen Lash. He was 60 years old. Okay, we know that. We know he's no longer alive. We're pretty sure, and we know his fiancée is Catherine Lebron, not an ugly-looking woman either. And they have found the guns, 1,200 guns worth $5 million and 6.5 tons. 6.5 tons of ammunition. Bullets don't weigh a lot. I mean, anyway. So,
Mickey, the other thing that I've heard recently, because I've been following this case pretty closely, and while you might hear the same story, you'll hear one phrase in it that is new info. And
Alright.
one of those was that he owned several. Okay, I'm gonna say it one more time. Several storage facilities.
Oh.
So like it's a garage somewhere in a locked facility, and he owned a lot of those. Maybe they'll come up on the show Storage Wars.
Hey. Yes.
Deceased estate.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But the truth is, look, it's clearly something is amiss here. Okay, clearly something. I mean, he goes into the trunk, or they help him into the trunk, whatever the case may be, then he dies. I'm sorry. That's just a little. I think that's just. I mean, if nobody thinks that's odd, then fair enough. That's okay. It's just me then. But yeah. So there, we haven't seen the last of this story. On the other hand, we may very well have seen the last of this story if there's more to it, right? I'm sure, though, it goes a lot deeper, and the rabbit hole here is a very strange rabbit hole indeed. In fact, there's another related thing which I'll talk once we finish with this, but this is very strange. I don't know. I really don't know. It's just very, very strange. Very strange. He was a loner, apparently, but so
yeah,
what?
that's what they say. Yeah. They say that about everybody who they find doing something, anything, anywhere. Look, my 2 cents is, look, it's probably real. The alien hybrid thing. We know there are alien hybrids from all of the relative testimony from people all around the world. So I don't. Whoop, sorry, Meki, I've just affected you negatively. There we go. I've tilted your picture now. It's fine. Now, so to sum up, it's one of those things that in the show Men in Black, they say, look for that little tiny column, because it's probably true. And I think this has got more truth in it than anything else. It doesn't make sense that they would even broadcast the term part alien. And this is that thing, the segue, beautiful segue that no one realized. That Meki said that art is it's coming out in art. Is this drip feed of information, and hopefully, wouldn't this be awesome, Meki, if this was just another one of those stories that they just had to bleed in there? Because why aren't the 2 ladies arrested for something?
Yeah, but where are all the pictures? There's only one picture published of him, which is a really grainy black and white license picture, which was taken in the 1996.
Surely there'd be at least surveillance footage or something.
Nope,
of him.
Nothing. There are no pictures of nothing. Nope.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, there isn't. Just to let you know.
So, it's too bizarre to let it go. I love the story, and we'll let you know if we find out anything more. Meki, what you have? You said you had something that was similar, or
a couple of things. One is similar, where we have a new whistleblower online. I haven't quite found him yet, but I heard on a couple of sites and a couple of YouTube clips. There's a new whistleblower out that says there are in fact a number of different alien agendas, different alien visitors. There are a number of different civilizations right now in existence on this planet. One of them 500,000 years old. Inner Earth, Outer Earth, and all that stuff. Actually, I saw it in Nexus as well. It was mentioned in Nexus itself. So there seems to be a new whistleblower who posted on a couple of chat rooms around this and around the different alien agendas. And it's not just the one. And I always thought that as well. I mean, if there are visitors, and I don't think there's any doubt that at the very least there's intelligent life out there somewhere apart from us. Okay, if you're not on board with that,
if you even class us intelligent.
Yeah, well, there you go. Boom, right? That's fair enough. I mean, even on this planet, I think we've got dolphins and whales. But anyway, beside the point. So I think it's clear that we have a lot of life in the universe. I think that's my opinion, right? And I think a lot of the truth is being kept from us for various reasons, and whatever the reasons are, it's it's just what it is. And having someone come forward and say this again, it doesn't really blow me away. In fact, what I've noticed, Dave.
What's that?
When it says on a book, a mind-bending book, or you'll never look at the world the same way, or it might change your reality, or whatever, right? And then I pick the book up and I read it, and I'm sure you felt the same way, and then our listeners probably as well. So I read the book, and I'm thoroughly disappointed. I'm thoroughly independent. So clearly, my mind is a pretzel, right? Because it can't be bent any further. With someone else's imagination. Because most things that other people take as imagination or fights of fancy, I take as my reality. Okay, most people live in a certain reality, and that's okay, and that's cool. I got no issue with that, and but the truth is that reality is probably only a partial reality. The real reality is a lot bigger, and I'm not saying I've seen all of it, but I'm open to the prospect, and so is Dave, and so should be, in fact, most of you, open to the prospect that there's more to this world than we were taught. So it's always disappointing when you pick up the book, be it sci-fi or thriller, or whatever, mind-bending, it'll twist you like a crawler, but it doesn't. You're left. I'm left empty. I'm left wanting. I'm going, okay. So where's the rest of it?
So Matthew, so when this story came out, in my head, I was like, why and human hybrid and all of these stuff into mainstream? So
yeah, I know.
Yeah, but we have a caller, Steve. Yeah, welcome aboard.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good.
How are you, mate?
I have a theory on this conspiracy theory.
Bring it on.
All right, I believe that this is a test hoax. This is the kind of thing that the things exist, or at least we largely believe that they exist. So they're throwing a carrot in front of the masses, and they're going to test it and see how many people bite. It doesn't really matter how much truth is in the story. It's a controlled story that is for the sake of seeing how we talk about it, if we talk about it. So because, of course, credence to such things, it makes everyone else feel a little bit less crazy, and it creates the courage for other people to come up and share their whatever. And then, if it gets enough attention, they'll pull the plug, and they'll show you the they'll show you the strings, if you will. They will they'll turn off. Just like with the alien autopsy and everything else, they'll prove it's a hoax after a sufficient amount of people are duped to set the conspiracy culture back another freaking 20 years.
Oh, I see. To maintain a disbelief in conspiracies.
Correct. To continue the fast one on a few people on the Jade Helm thing, where somebody released some footage of something very, very disturbing that looked like a military thing going on while Jade Helm was going on, and Alex Jones, he's your big fish, they caught him. They got him to believe it hook, line, and sinker, amongst a few other people. They kind of jumped on this and thought it was the real deal of, oh my God, here's our worst nightmares. A different military exercise that wasn't Jade Helm, but was also going on at the same time as Jade Helm, and people thought that it was part of the Jade Helm conspiracy. And it made a bunch of people look like dupes. And amongst, like one of my family members who is a former military and now a government agent, so he's a part of their law enforcement apparatus, he's constantly sending me emails now, mocking Jade Helm conspiracy people. Like he's showing like these internet memes or whatever, saying like, I survived Jade Helm. Yeah, there's been a whole lot of damage, and I never came to him in any irrational way about Jade Helm. I just said, I'm paying attention to this. I've got concerns. But when he went and checked out what I was concerned about, he only found the crazy. And
yeah, that's right.
He reacted to the crazy with the atypical defense mechanism for such a thing, which is low taste humor.
Ridicule. That's right. Yeah, exactly. So we see, Steve, you're right. We see a lot of that, and it's tough for us to bring a story out. We're contacted in different ways each week, and some of the things that people will try to get me to talk about, not a chance. There's not a chance. It's a dodgy, grainy video or a photograph of something that it truly isn't. I can look at it. I can look at it and say, look, it's interesting.
It's flat Earth. It's the flat Earth effect.
Yeah, let's not go there again.
I've got all this information that says that the Earth is flat. Why aren't you listening to me? It's because you don't have any information that the Earth is flat.
That's
you
right.
found somebody's revisionary concepts of physics, and you're driving me crazy. Go away.
Yeah. So the flat Earth thing show,
Yeah.
but that's pretty much.
And flat Earth has just become a backdoor to the Dark Ages anyway, which is what it naturally is. It's just like you have to believe in flat Earth, or Jesus ain't gonna save you, and you can enjoy your new world order. And it's just like, how are these two things related?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, but they'll make connections to anything. One of the things, hold on, Steve. You're welcome until you can take it. You can't take anymore. One of the things that
Well, I can take a lot of grades starting in a week.
Steve, tell everyone what time you're on.
All right, starting next Monday, not in 2 days from now, but next Monday, I will be on Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 on Studio B.
Awesome.
And then I continue on Studio A from 6 to 8 as Sean's producer.
Awesome.
So that's going to be Ghost in the Machine's new official time, 5 days a week. All sorts of the travesty, all the heavy metal conspiracy you can tolerate.
That sounds great. You're going to have to show us where the archives are, outside of what's already available on the internet, on the website. Now, Meki, guess what? 8 earthquakes in 3 days off Queensland.
In fact, we're talking a massive earthquake. I think it was a 7-pointer.
Yep.
Right, so which is I mean that's actually it was the strongest earthquake since 1918, and then you're right. What's going on? Australia doesn't have earthquakes. We don't have earthquakes here.
Not
It just doesn't
normally we
happen.
don't. The screen capture done, so I can.
With Australia's geography or morphological makeup, it's a very old continent. Mountains are eroding. That means other mountain ranges are growing as well.
Andes
Not so in
growing.
Australia. Yep, and there are no major fault lines running through Australia. The actual landmass is actually very stable. It's a very stable place, geologically, speaking. So that's our base. So having earthquakes, 7.7 earth. This one actually went for 10 seconds or something. There, people are saying, which is
it was felt
massive.
hundreds of miles away in all the coastal towns. And I have to say, I've got a picture up for those people who are, watching this on YouTube. It's something else for us to get anything like that. The last thing that we had that was devastating on our landmass was a 2.8, and that was the Newcastle earthquake.
Yeah.
It was really
and
nothing.
that was big news.
And that was big, but now
It was nothing.
Yeah.
It was It's that chance and it's
The
different,
fault line
Yeah.
continues
But-
through New Zealand.
Yeah.
All right, so
So, but we're not. Other areas which are active anyway must be a lot more active. And guess what? Yeah, absolutely. And we should turning into a mini roundtable. I like it.
So-
we should pay heed. We should pay heed to the Ring of Fire specifically for the very reason that Japan is on it. And we just recently, I mean, the Fukushima would never have happened if it hadn't been for that tsunami. You know, so it's a pretty bleak state at the moment.
it sure is. One of the things that Mickey, what's a news story that's 18 months old that has nothing to solve
I was
it
going
at
to talk.
the moment?
Yeah. No, but this is the kicker. They find this piece of debris. Okay.
We're talking about
Define this piece of
MH370
debris.
now, by the way. Everyone, keep up.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. In on the island of Reunion, which is a sister island to Mauritius,
And
which is
ironically,
just,
the
just
name
east of.
Reunion.
Yes, correct. And just east of Madagascar, in the Indian Ocean, as it were, right? So, in fact, I know people from there. So, hi there to all Reunionists and Mauritians. They find this piece of flotsam jetsam, and I mean, they must find thousands of pieces on all islands, all around the Indian Ocean at all times, especially considering that there was a tsunami some years ago and there's still stuff floating about. Fukushima, I'm sure there's a lot of debris floating about, washing up all the time. But this piece, which may be a piece of a tail or wing of MH370, that's the one. That's the one they talk about. And it's clearly, that must be the one that is identified with that plane of the World Trade Center. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, it's just entirely too far fetched. Having said that, it's a good thing the story is not dead yet, right?
Well,
You know, they're using this to validate where they originally said that the plane
Yep.
went down, the Indian Ocean. And I'm looking at the whole thing.
Yes.
Dude, there's like 5 bazillion places in the Indian Ocean the plane could have gone down that's going to hit all of these currents that you claim are out there, which I'm pretty sure those are the real currents. Oh yeah, and that's actually a lot closer to, oh, I don't know, Diego Garcia.
yeah, they could have just flicked it off the beach, and it would have ended
get a
up there
saw.
anyway. That's right.
Yeah, that's
They
exactly.
probably sank the plane after they can you say scuttled it?
Yes.
Can you scuttle a plane? You
You
can scuttle a
probably
boat.
could. Yeah.
After they scuttled it, they sank it for plausible deniability, and then they started breaking it up, and now they're like the Easter Bunny, and they're laying little pieces all over the Indian Ocean, so the Marines can have so the Navy can have their Easter egg hunt.
Absolutely.
exactly.
This is the way it's seeming, and you know what? For it to turn up onto La Reunion Island, it's just extraordinary. Now, Mekki and I did the maths, and there wasn't any way in the world possibly that the plane would fly an extra 2,400 kilometers. It is not possible that a plane will carry.
It
that
was
much
gliding.
fuel.
It was for the last. That's
So,
what happened.
yeah,
What? You?
What? You're denying it can do that? Yeah. So completely, and so that the whole thing appears to be completely fabricated. Doesn't matter. Whatever the real thing occurred, this is just one of those things. There was pretty healthy looking growth on that flaperon that they call it, that little piece of the trailing edge of the right wing of MH3, of a Boeing 777. It doesn't necessarily, you know what, Mekki, this is one thing that got me. They said they looked at the serial number printed, and it was of a 657BB, which means that it was a 777, Boeing 777.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know that all parts are stamped with the flight number, because as they assemble the plane, they're all stamped. So if you find a piece, you know from which plane it came from.
That's correct.
Not that it came from a particular model. So this plane should have 9M MRO on it.
I know that sheared off, but we're pretty sure it's from there anyway.
Yeah. So that's if it was to be true. And apparently it washed up in May. Did we know that? No. Was it driven...
Oh, really?
That's crazy, right? That it was in May.
Yes.
What there's families, if it was real, there's families that are hanging on their closure. Yeah, they're waiting for closure on this.
How off circuit is this island? Because this thing already arrived in France like a half second after they said, oh, we found this debris, and it's already in France for inspection, and it's in France because that island is owned by the French.
Yeah, that's right.
And
So-
where is the sister plane to MH370? It's in France.
The sister plane.
The sister plane, if you don't know about this, the sister plane, the plane with the next letter along, I think it was Q, MRQ, 9M MRQ. So 9M MRO was the MH370 flight, but its sister plane was parked some 8 months earlier in France. It was flown there and bought from Malaysian Airlines and flown into the airport and parked.
Huh.
Right? And it's never
So another-
flown since. That flight registration number, since then, in the last 18 months, well now 24 months, has not flown since they parked it. So they could have easily just taken a piece off it, flipped it in the ocean. Oh, I'm sorry. Area code 425. Welcome aboard.
So Dave and Mekki, you ever wonder why the only conspiracy theory you can't talk about on alternative radio is the flat Earth? This is the Hijacker.
Oh, it's Hijacker. Hi, Hijacker. How you doing? Hijacker.
Oh no, I'm very happy to talk about it. In fact, I did want to do a show on it. And if only for to find out why people think the Earth might be flat. I tell you what. Okay, very quickly, I tell you what I really think. Okay, I read a science fiction story once, short story, and this was about ontology, right? The science of being. And essentially, what this guy said, the ontologist, life and reality is consensus. Whatever the majority of the people believe actually happens. So therefore, at one point in time, the story says the Earth was actually flat. Until enough people were convinced, by whomever, that the Earth was round, at which point it became round. So that's the science of ontology in that short story. Very interesting thought in a fundamental building block of reality. We know the observer effect, we know quantum mechanics. And just based on that, I did want to do a show on the flat Earth, and I know that puts us right out of even the fringe of the conspiracy theorists. But I'm curious. I wanted to know why people think it's flat. I wanted to see the evidence. So I'm actually still going to do the research, and we might do a show on it. And if the evidence goes against the flat Earth, then we'll say it as well. But I'm curious. And sorry, Hydra,
Well,
go ahead.
actually, right. Actually, there's a mountain. It's literally a mountain of evidence that the Earth is flat, and there's literally nothing except NASA and the government saying the world is round. But I mean, now I know I'm going to get kicked off the air. It's just a matter of I'm like a Jedi warrior. I can just like crack through anybody on this flat Earth stuff. But just think about this, Mikey and Dave. Just think about it. You put it on a tripod. You set it on the ground. You point the telescope to a star. Do you realize that according to NASA, we're spinning 1,000 miles an hour. The world is 24,000 miles in circumference. That's what gives us a 24-hour day. So the world is spinning. In other words, the actual globe that you're on is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. Do you realize moved 1,466.6 feet in 1 second? If it was true that we're on a globe, you couldn't even see a star. You're talking about the speed is it's undeniable. I mean, it's undeniable that you got a North Star in which all the stars go around in time lapse, which have gone for thousands of years. Thousands of years, the North Star has been the North Star, and yet we are burning through the universe at trillions of miles a year, and yet all the stars remain the same, which you can see both from down under and also in the northern hemisphere. Am I still on the air?
Yeah.
You still? Yeah. Wait, we're not cutting you off, man.
So Hijacker, the only thing that I've got is an issue is that we don't have a North Star. Nothing in our sky stays. There's no single point of rotation in our sky. All of the very strange that there should be
Mickey,
nothing.
can you see the galactic rift? Can you see the galactic rift?
We get to see the center of our galaxy, and what's very strange about this is that it turns in an unusual manner. It crosses the sky, but at the same time as crossing, it changes its angle, and it's very strange to look at. It's like it turns in an eccentric orbit. It doesn't. If you were in the southern hemisphere, you would probably have a different opinion, because that wouldn't be the case. So this is our problem when we're talking about a mountain of evidence. I'm happy to accept anything you get to send me, and send me if you like, and we'll have a look at it.
No, I can lay it out. I mean, it's just one thing after another, after another, after another.
I understand.
I mean, no curvature. I mean, there's no. Go ahead.
I've seen it all. I've seen all that. But if you've got anything that will sell me on it, great. Because what Mackie and I are trying to do at the moment, we're trying to put together a show where we discuss it from a facts pile, anything that we know to be true. How does each one of those items then relate to there being a flat Earth or not a flat Earth? And then how can they be debunked? We want to know what it is all about, because I know some friends of mine that are in the Flat Earth Society, and they're pretty tight-lipped and don't want to talk about anything that they happen to either know Or discuss,
Actually,
Mickey? I'll bring it to you.
There was a mathematical proof. I'm trying to find it right now. Sorry, that's why I was quiet as well. And I remember going through this proof at some time in the past. But there was a mathematician in ancient Greece that measured the length of the shadow stick casts in cities that are separated by, I don't know, was 2,000 miles or 3,000, whatever it was, right? Now, at the same time, each stick would cast a shadow of a different length. This makes perfect sense if the Earth is round. It doesn't make any sense if it's flat, because the sun is sufficiently far away for any distance there not to make any difference. Whereas if the Earth is curved, the shadow should be shorter. The further you were,
the more you are beneath the sun,
that's
and
right.
further
The
you
more
are
beneath
away
the sun,
from it,
the longer it is. That's
right.
Yeah, and that's what he found. All right. But it looked again at the same time. I don't know, whatever time he looked at it. So meaning it was noon for him, and maybe it was a different time zone over there. But the point is, that was mathematical proof of a round Earth prior, or geometric proof prior to any known space flight that NASA is undertaking at this point. Another thing which I find interesting, and I just want to make the point because I will have to show. We will do the research, Hijacker, and anyone else who's listening, because I'm interested. I'm curious, because if people think it's possible, I want to know why, right? For the most part, I understand why people do things or say things. I want to know what makes the flat earthers tick as well. But the thing is, I think this would be a very hard thing to keep under wraps, because there has to be an edge. In fact, 4 edges, if it's flat.
I got two thoughts. Running through my mind, if I may. Mm-hmm. Thought number one is that I give the flat Earth, the new flat Earth theory, and apparently it's not even that new. Apparently, this version of the flat Earth theory has been around for maybe 150 years or so. As an underground movement, apparently. But I give them super points for making a more logical version of flat Earth, because when you first say flat Earth to somebody, the thought that comes to their mind is they look at a map that goes east to west. It's a rectangular map, and they say that's stupid. People fly across the Pacific Ocean all the time, and they don't fall off the universe. And then they make the point that no, it's flat, but it's a disk with the North Pole as the center of the disk, and Antarctica is not a continent, but it's basically Game of Thrones, and it's the Great Ice Wall, which I find that funny that that Game of Thrones has this Great Wall, which is like the cornerstone of their Armageddon in their mythology, and now we've got this ice wall as a part of flat Earth. I'm going to say it, mythology. That is that is what we call Antarctica. And so I find it kind of funny, because the flat earthers, they basically, with having a far less, this is where the flat Earth falls apart for me. In our normal scope of the universe, we have the infinite universe with all the stars and the nebulas and the galaxy, and we have personal telescopes where we can go and we can observe all these things. Now, flat earthers have this great tundral expanse of ice like Antarctica, and basically all of reality is Antarctica, and then maybe there's another puddle, and that's a whole other Earth, if you will. But there's no explanation for the physics that puts all this together. All they do is what Hijacker did. Instead of proving it, he cast doubt instead of casting proof. And he casts doubt, which is easy to do when you're not a freaking physics genius, or if you're not an astronomer, et cetera, and you're not a quote unquote expert. So it's trying to exploit the fact that our field of profession isn't this, and to make us look bad because we looked towards experts as if our judgment is poor judgment. We've been stupid for believing in round Earth, just like we were stupid for believing in flat Earth, during the Renaissance.
And that the Earth was the center of the solar system, or the universe, to be honest. Yes, Becky, go ahead.
Yeah, I have the Greek gentleman. In fact, it was Eratosthenes of Cyrene. And while he was living in Alexandria, he received some amazing correspondence from the city of Syene in southern Egypt. In particular, it said that on the summer solstice, the shadow of someone looking down a deep well would block the reflection of the sun at noon. In other words, the sun would be directly overhead at this time, not a single degree to the south, north, east, or west. Makes sense. And if you had a completely vertical object, it would cast absolutely no shadow. But he knew that this wasn't the case where he was in Alexandria at the same time, right? Sure, the sun came closer to being directly overhead at noon on the summer solstice in Alexandria than at any other time during the year, but vertical objects still cast a shadow. Okay, so in fact, there's a 7.2 degree difference between the two locations. So that's the story, which goes back, I think, a couple of thousand of years, about 2,000 years. So just so even without the aid of NASA and rockets, a very interesting man proved mathematically, or through thinking, that there might have been curvature in the Earth.
Yeah.
Now, was that measurement done over water or over land? Because flat earthers
Land.
will always say it matters if it's over water, and in that respect, I absolutely agree with them, because the water will be even to the gravity, if you will.
Actually, that's not true. The oceans bulge. Okay,
They bulge more at the equator.
I mean, they're constantly in flux, but if you get a calm day on the water, where the water perceptibly is barely moving at all, you can get a very accurate measurement of something. You know, like imagine if you tried to do that measurement on a mountain, or on a hill, in a hilly area or whatever, It's like I give them, like, I do agree that the best results are going to be over calm water. And there's plenty of instances of calm water. You can go to a bay. Like, you don't have to go out to the ocean. You go to a major lake or what have you. Anything that gives you a few miles to measure with.
Yeah, but we have pretty straight and flat areas in Australia, right? Australia is pretty much flat in large tracts, and then you can put a little, the little, what are they called, Dave? The water marker. It's like an edge tool to see if you're level.
A level.
It's a level. That's why it's a level. So you can actually put the level on the ground, and you will have the little bubble of sitting in the water right between the two markers. So we have a lot of flat areas on land in Australia. And in other places of the world as well. So I'm sorry. Look, I know I might make some, not enemies, but certainly not friends. But I have to come down on the round Earth at this point. And there's the music. Don't go away,
look,
guys.
Meki and I are both supporters of the round Earth. And good luck trying to sway us. You're going to need a lot more than a mountain of evidence to get us over the line. Hold on to yourselves. Make a donation. We'll see you after a short station break.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons? Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply, though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958, and Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome back to Dave and Mackey's Shiny Side Out. We've got Steve Travesty still on the line with us here as a guest. Thank you very much, Steve, for dialing in. We also have the hijacker with us, talking about the flat Earth, and we will never cut anyone off. We are all for free speech. But I was thinking a bit more about the flat Earth in the break, but there will be a show, and I'll tell you exactly what I think about the flat Earth in the show, so no more time will be taken up, at least on my part, by it. However, I also had a chat to the staff at Revolution Radio, and Shiny Set Out is going to pick up the shortfalls for the last couple of months of the issues. So please donate if you can. So Dave and I, we're going to cover that jobber, the fee that you quoted me. Will be coming your way probably tomorrow. So the station keeps on going and stronger every day. We are talking about something else that is probably controversial, and I want to say this before we start. Neither Dave nor I want to prove that Noah was real or that it was an ark, that Noah herded all the animals on the ark, one of each kind, and we don't care about that, or I don't care about it. It's just one of many flood mythologies. It's not even an original one, as far as I can tell, right? There's Gilgamesh, there's Deucalion, there's Bergalma, there's a whole bunch of different, or Xiao in China, in fact, hundreds. We had to show, and you all know what we think about that. So we're not Bible bashing, and we have no interest in proving Noah's flood. Don't care about that. We are, however, interested in understanding what happened some 13,000 years ago, what brought about the end of the last ice age, which quite arguably brought about the end of the civilization or civilizations that existed at that time, most likely in the equatorial regions, most likely with a much lower water level, right? So some 400 feet, people believe the oceans were lower than today. So clearly, digging in the coastal areas today, or even the riverbeds or near rivers, is completely pointless if we're looking for these signs of a lost civilization. Because guess what? The geography changes. Water goes up and down. Rivers change their course. Okay, it's part of life. So, excuse me. I just wanted to say that because on debunking Noah's flood. Why? I mean, who cares? Look at the evidence for the catastrophe. We're also not saying that the entire Earth was covered in water. We're saying there was a massive catastrophe, which probably caused tsunamis, caused increased precipitation because water vapor would have gone into the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
It probably also broke the dams on a whole bunch of northern United States and large parts of Europe. So no, we don't think that the entire Earth was covered by water, a la Waterworld. Okay, so just that's our disclaimer before we go on. All right. That's very weird. Sorry, Steve or Dave, did you want to say anything else?
No.
Okay,
I'll take
all right.
silence as an affirmative.
Wait, I was muted.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to say that, like, all I ask for is somebody who's just really smart, who's purely the science, who's not going to try and religiousize about it and have no inkling of a preachiness of anything and have no history of it. I'll have you on my show to talk about it. Like, no diatribe. I won't attack you or nothing like that. If you are purely a scientist who can impress me, impress me off the air first, and I'll put you on the air.
Yep. No, that's a very nice offer.
That's a very.
In fact, if you find someone like that, let's make it a back-to-back show cycle. Happy to.
Dude, I'm all about sharing the love. If I find a girl co-hosts.
Awesome.
Brilliant. I appreciate that. Look, and then look, again, this is not about proving right or wrong. It's about finding the truth. I don't care who's right. On Revolution Radio, are looking for the truth. Okay, we're all searching. We're all questing for it. Okay, none of us have the monopoly on it, but by the same token, you can't just say blah 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 or. All right, good.
Right, okay, let's get cracking. Okay, so Steve, hold on tight because here comes the non. This.
Aww.
So
this is we're talking about the flood, the Great Flood evidence, but this isn't to do with the Great Flood, the biblical one. This is the one that we've already done show cycles on, as Mekki said. And here we've got floods are real, and they're absolutely enormous. Geologists long rejected the notion that the cataclysmic flood had ever occurred, until one of them found proof of a Noah-like Washington state. This is from written by David R. Montgomery, Wednesday, August 29th, 2012. It's in the scientific community and the geology fields, and he says, after teaching geology that I hadn't yet seen deep canyons where tremendous ice age floods scoured down in, help lead a field trip for students to see the giant erosion scars on the local landforms. He said, we drove Moses Cooley, the students on a small rise and asked them how the canyon had formed. They immediately ruled out wind and glaciers. The valley, and none of us could imagine how wind might gouge a canyon out of hard basalt. But neither were these rivers or streams on a pile of gravel. I asked how the rounded granite lay over the horizon. There was silence. Hiking through the eastern Washington canyons littered with exotic boulders is a standard field trip for beginning geology. Waterfall hundreds of feet high in the middle of the desert. Giant potholes where no canyon. Gradually, the contradictions fall into place and the story unfolds. Where did the wayward boulders, the size of a car or horse of the water that moved them and carved the falls? Today, even novices take it.
Long before the discovery of the scab lens, geologists dismissed the role of catastrophic floods interpreting European geology. Okay, it was dismissed. And I want to quickly tell you why. Dominant religion of the people, in a way, and displaced religion, they needed to form very hard lines against each other, right? Mm-hmm. Science was on the other side, religion on the other. So
like
they were
pendulum.
opposing flood, and so the scientists said, well, it's in the Bible, so it can't be true, and therefore, it's all nonsense. We want to go hard evidence and so forth, and they came up with the theory of gradualism, okay, meaning steady state, everything changes very slowly, and catastrophism was left by the wayside. Now, geological heresy. Now, heresy should never be a word that's employed. Should be employed in connection with science. Anything. You science all day. You're not
just
a heretic.
Science all day. I science.
religious turn, right? You are going against accepted dogma. And science, again, should not have dogma. But this is just my little rant here. Of the 20th century, for other geologists to believe him. Geologists had so thoroughly vilified the concept of great floods that they could not believe it when somebody actually found evidence of one. This puts me, as an aside, puts me in mind of the Sphinx and the water erosion on the Sphinx, which Robert Schoch spoke and wrote about at length. And I saw the debate. The only thing that they could say, the Egyptologists, was, well, where's the evidence for the civilization you speak of? We have found nothing. We found a lot. The arguments there. There was no real debate. I mean, he had the hard scientific evidence. In 1925, and then would not see. Your scientists, for crying out, wall of water hundreds of feet high, roared across eastern Washington, carving deep channels before cascading down the Columbia Valley into a vast backwater lake. Bretts found exotic granite boulders, recorded river level, in fact. In the Scablands, a desolate region stripped of soil and waterfalls and potholes hundreds of feet above, deposited within dry valleys, implied deep, fast-flowing water. Streamlined hills rose like islands, extending more than 100 feet above the scoured-out channelways. Hundreds of feet of solid basalt, backing up flow into the Willamette Valley. The Missoula, an ancient glacier-dammed lake in western Montana. We've spoken about the glacier-dammed lakes and the potential flooding they could cause. When geologist Joe Pardee described giant ripple marks formed by fast-flowing currents and not by the sluggish bottom water of a lake. Deep lake. That was the catastrophic release of 600 cubic miles of water. 600 cubic miles of water through a narrow gap would sweep away everything in its path. Any civilization is old. 97. 97 he was, okay? And it had taken 70. Good 70. Sorry, take it, Dave.
Yeah. So recognition of the Missoula flood helped Europe, Alaska, and the American Midwest, as well as on Mars. Many gigantic ancient floods where glacial ice dams failed time some 10,000 years ago, as Meki and I know, around about 12.5. America repeatedly produced age divides and changed them by erosion from glaciers were a fact of life on the margins of we witnessed them. Still alive could tell the tale. But I'll tell you, memory pretty clean, I'll tell you that. Okay, so Washington reported stories of a great identified locations where survivors sought refuge. When we were talking about there was no topsoil. And that has no topsoil. It's settled is up against our eastern, on the western slope of it. And it's caused a slow evaporation and sedimentation. Sorry, hijacker. It's the curvature of the Earth. Flat. And it's measurable. Flatness at the plains. And it's something else.
So, Dave, that would a massive Australia
something
from
like
the direction of the Indian Ocean.
3,000 miles.
Right. And would have taken with it most of the tops west
to the south,
into the ocean.
Exactly. And that looks to... Knowing that all these things are around, all of these things are there...
Yep.
Some of them are ginormous.
Yes.
In the Indian Ocean, maybe 24 hours apart or something, and as the Earth turned, it was even the one would have a significant effect. Let alone water, some 28 miles or 30 miles away from the actual impact in the deep ocean around it, that all collided in on itself, causing the first wave. You have to think about just how terrible that would have been. Now, I know there's stories, Meki, also in South Africa, the South, and that's almost consistent with the age of the Lucy skeleton, or so. I don't think they've done any dating on it yet. It's just a guess, because they guess, it wasn't. Mega tsunamis is a result of impacts.
Yes.
It's crazy.
This is a show that we lost. November 16 in 2006 by Anne Saleh, and this is an ABC article. Enormous comets today, says a small group of scientists. Most critics are yet to impacts. And I think as in the last 9 years, we've some of that evidence seen come to light. Dave will share with you. Conventional wisdom has it that the Earth suffers such violent hits from space only twice every million years. Well, fair enough, but at least that's still twice. It could happen during the existence of geomorphologist, Associate Professor Ted Bryant of the University of 500 years ago. They say until recently, we had no instant communications. We might get some inkling, read in the newspaper, even at night. That's from the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory at Columbia University. Brian says these would have caused mega only 11 years ago, guys. Yeah, one of the largest earthquake-generated tsunamis the world has ever seen, killing 500,000 odd people and devastating the coastal areas in the Indian Ocean. Aceh was a dimple compared to what we're looking at, says Brian, who's the associate dean of science at the university. Now, they used evidence from Google Earth, which I find fascinating, right? Brian, in fact, the same thing Dave and I did. Brian used satellite images from Google Earth to identify inland dunes in the shape of arrowheads that he says are signs of mega tsunamis. These are the chevrons we spoke about last show as well. The tsunamis would have displaced chevron dunes. We found that chevrons are every, which is the height of it, which measures the height of the sea surface to get an image of the seabed to identify possible underwater craters, which would be evidence of the impact that caused the tsunamis. Brian says Abbott also looked for melted material in cores from the sand craters were linked by the direction the chevrons were pointing. Clearly, right? I mean, if they're coming in at an angle, then the detritus would go into a certain direction. Carpentaria and Australia both pointed north in the direction of two craters found in the craters suggests the impact happened 1,500 years ago, he says. And the well-preserved chevrons also date to around the same time. What happened in the Indian Ocean?
Well, see, Brian says chevrons about 4,800 years ago, old, around the Indian Ocean, are associated with a 29-kilometer, and I've got the mouse on it, so if you're on YouTube, you can see it. So, and so this area here, which actually displays a crack along the bottom of the ocean, backs back up through the Indian Ocean. That is the location of the crater, I have to say. Absolutely, perfectly enormous. So they say associated with a 29-kilometer wide impact crater. Like this is where it is, what they're talking about. The chevrons are around the Indian Ocean that all point back to this one crater site, proving that this was this directions. And this Australian coastline, this is one of the only coastlines in the world that think of the Andes, thinking of the Sierras. They're all on the western coast that flowed onto there, would continue to flow, and as it washed pretty much clean all of the topsoil across, and it all drained out this way, leaving this area around here, around the back of New South Wales to be perfect. All right, so anyway, Mackie, what I have to say is he and Abbott have linked this to one impact. So there's other ones, there's other impacts, and there's others. So one over here is 500 years ago. There's one off the coast of Australia, and they've found as well where the eastern coast was. Doesn't it just tell us that our Earth is not? It's not static, it's not sitting still, as everything that's happening on Earth is and has happened before. And in the 70s of some coastal holiday town you like to visit, it's changed. And our Earth is changing all the time.
Clearly, Dave, and the steady state theory, the astrophysics. Sure, some phenomena take time. I absolutely have no problem admitting that. However, I think the most impacts are those that happen catastrophically. Those things that happen overnight, changing the face of the Earth 1,000 years ago, and then again potentially some 5,000 years ago again with the Black Sea flooding, as we've spoken about, debunk them away. You can't just ignore them, and science has to move away, and has to some extent now from its dogma and around the catastrophic impact that these events have had on the world. Right? I mean, it is clear that geology some mechanisms are slow, is definitely affected by massive Mexico crater, guys. Okay, these are facts. Look at the moon. It doesn't have an appreciable atmosphere. You can even see them on Mars. Having said that, I think some of the moon craters are quite not at all what you think they are. So, but that's a whole different show. But no, where does it leave us? What do we think about all of this? And I'll tell you what we think. All the debunking that we can find, we've mentioned this before, is targeted at days, blah, 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 whatever. Clearly, the biblical story is embellished, probably even borrowed from older sources, right? If you study of ancient history, you can do that yourself. Some really great works on comparative mythology, by the way, one by Campbell. So why spend so much time and effort debunking it? Dave and I are mystified. We really are mystified. Because nobody's trying to debunk the fact that there was some kind of catastrophic impact which may have caused massive tsunamis and glacial floods. No, they're specifically talking about Noah. Yes, there definitely was a catastrophe some 12 to 13,000 years ago, and probably a smaller one some 7,000 years ago, maybe 5,000 years ago. Again, it's the Black Sea flooding. Dating is notoriously difficult. We've had shows on dating, both absolute and relative, and you know what the issues are there. And maybe there may have been many smaller ones in between and before that. Meteors on a frequent basis. We might be going through debris fields. Who knows, right? And the thing is, there's a lot of water on the Earth. So now the stories from around the world tell us of the events that were witnessed during the impact time that brought about the end of the last ice age. That's what the SSO think, okay, about the end of the last ice age, and destroyed in the equatorial regions of this planet. Earthquakes, tsunamis, rain of water and fire, different periods of flooding are being described, depending on where the elements actually fit. The stories are different, but if you trace the actual impact, you go, okay, there's fire here and water. The stories make perfect sense. Different modes of survival, different subsets of survivors, okay, are being described. Most stories insist that none of the races of the pre-flood. What?
That's
cloning
the
IVF?
crazy. That's the part that
Right.
that Mekki and I found incredible.
Yeah, sorry, Dave, and then I think we also.
Steve, you've got your hand up, man. What's up?
Yes.
Yes. I've got two. It's really mostly about the one pertinent thought. Really, is that which is always the last question that's asked, the most irrelevant yet that ask this question because it's what sells it or not for them. Why? It seems like whenever we talk about anything that is average Joe or Jill is a catalyst for the event, and if that doesn't make sense to them, it gets disregarded. It doesn't matter that here's the facts. The facts prove that it happened. If they do not understand why it happened, they don't believe it happened. What are the people that are discovering the evidence for the flood are saying was it erratic melting of the ice? What melted the ice?
So essentially, either a comet or a meteor struck the Indian Ocean, most likely, which caused in itself massive tsunamis as well as I guess a spot or flash evaporization of water, which would come down and also do is break the dams of the massive glacial lakes that were in existence at the time, covering in North America 2,000 feet deep, right? And 600 cubic miles of water were released when the dam broke there. For example, events that took place, the catalyst or the instigator, if you will, was the impact of the comet or meteor. Probably a comet, but again, of the flooding as well as the earthquakes, right? There's also a rain of fire that comes through in some of the flood mythology.
And there's also volcanic activity linked to it as well, because you're just pushing on the. That's right.
And then the floods from the lakes, right? So it's a number of not just one thing, but a number of things that happened.
Yeah, that's right. So they're still molten and has an ice cream, and that comes raining down, and that. The sudden change to suddenly have it raining a lot fashion and can stretch hundreds of thousands of miles inland. And the sudden breaking emerge because of this and then suddenly fail. There where the flooding is valley because everyone was valley around water. So they all lived next to rivers and they all had to flee their homes and go up hills and try and survive. But when you're talking about there being an inundation by tsunami of something in the order inundation, it pretty much wipes out most of the population everywhere. Today, there's a lot more.
Yeah, but even today, if you look at where all the major cities are, New York, LA, Sydney, either we are near rivers, right, or we're along the coastline. I would go as far as saying 60 to 70% of the population is near coastline or rivers.
We're worried about sea level rise just from, the global, climate change. We're worried. Now we know what happened in the Sumatran, it was
2 meters.
2 meter high. But that it washed in and washed out and a couple of times. So Meki and I, we comment that it can't be an ocean-borne impact would have on the globe. So by paralleling what we know today to be the effects and how we can extrapolate that back to would be the case. They've found the impact crater, they've dated it, they've found the microorganisms from the sea floor, from critics, Meki. Many other flood myths. Yes, Meki?
Before you go on, sorry. Well, yes. There's one more thing, and this is important because we've mentioned it a number of times now, and this is for you as well, Steve. We are talking about a civilization that existed in the glacial period, pre-glacial as well, but specifically on the equator. We think a very high civilization. Why? Why do we think that? Well, a lot of the stories and a lot of help afterwards, after the flood as well, that they received from teachers, from visitors, right? That's clear. But again, it could also be a civilization that was much more advanced than the average Joe. It uses more technology than the average bushman in the Kalahari. It's always been the case. Some peoples are more developed than others and have more technology than others. It's not the same technology we have today necessarily, but certainly it's not behind ours either because of the accomplishments that we can see those people actually made. So it's important to realize that we lost the civilization at that point. Okay, we did lose something. But you're right. Sorry, Dave. Now we've thrown in some fun. So go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so many other flood myths have existed, as virtually all of them were written by societies that resided near regularly the one of Noah and the Ark in Judeo-Christian mythology. Not
quick caveat. Clearly,
yes.
That's not. Go ahead, you do it.
Yeah, not for the shiny side out, of course. We are referring to the actual catastrophe of which Meki.
That's right. Keep going.
Oh, the Rational Wiki then goes on to only critique the size. It makes no sense as none. What purpose, what grand purpose could that possibly in this?
Bingo.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got a pen, America, from our perspective, had to be the exact opposite. It didn't matter what it was that Russia said, then America had to be, we could do that. He goes, oh, no. You see, he'd drawn the line in the sand and said that, all crusade. How's that, Meki? Hey?
Beautiful.
Factual crusade. It's a joke. So, catastrophe. And having not physically witnessed it in something like 70 generations of people, they couldn't draw 48 years on this planet. I've seen so many disasters now that I would have to completely adhere. It happens because water drips on something and it erodes it just a little tiny bit. But then there's these huge events. Some of the Rational Wiki example of an exercise in futility. Meki?
So this is what the Rational Wiki has to say about the precipitation that would be required for the global flood. The conventional flood story states that the flood waters came from water in the vapor phase and it becomes saturated. Yes, we know that. That's part of geography if you did it in school. It's called rain. No, weather fronts are capable of altering the thresholds at which precipitation will form quite easily. Yes, that's 4.5 billion cubic kilometers of water needed for the global flood. So they actually sat down and calculated that. It's average. With a maximum of 4% limited by the temperature and pressure. These are all real numbers, guys. The change in atmospheric conditions required to support enough vapor for 112 million cubic kilometers of rain per day, which is 40 rainfall worldwide would have rendered the air unbreathable. Yeah, that's also true. Indeed, the atmosphere, really temperature and pressure conditions, the planet animal would have drowned through the simple act of breathing, as well as turning the Earth into the equivalent of a pressure cooker with atmospheric pressure, or so we have today. And you're right, Steve. Very quickly, I once overheard a conversation in the train, and these people, and no offense to fundamentalist Christians, it's all good, but we're talking about dinosaurs and such, and I said, well, how do you explain, fossils that are, millions, or hundreds of millions of years old? And they said, well, God made them old. And you're right, Steve, the answer is always God. That's right.
This is chapter 7. Noah had to take 7 couples of clean beasts and just 2 of unclean beasts. This is from 7 to 7. Which order to take just 1 couple of each beast on the earth. But the animals were not categorized before Moses, and his law is 14. How Noah something else regarding the biblical chronology. The Great Flood occurred around 2000. This distinction was given by God to Noah. The law was given around. Creationist claim that was given from God to Noah. Why it didn't survive after him before Moses and was only followed by Noah? It doesn't make sense.
No. Caring for the animals more than Noah and his family could have managed. However, the lions, tigers, and bears would have had their pick of any number of now extinct species, and even each other. When the Noah clan was tasked, voracious carnivores, if they had to keep pairs of all. Have seen the movie Noah? If you haven't,
yes,
they actually put them all to sleep.
Put that up.
I think that's a very elegant solution. But sorry, what happened to the aquatic species, Dave?
Yes, so this is strange. There was no marine life we see today, according to the flood myth, had to have survived the 376 days of the flood. Would produce such drastic ecological changes that most aquatic species would die. When the rising saltwater oceans mixed with freshwater lakes and rivers, both freshwater and saltwater species would have died. It's unlikely. The law, small fish that live on reefs would have been repeatedly pounded against rocks and mud, and many fish. Remember, this is all Rational Wiki, people, not us. This is the Rational Wiki. I repeat. And many fish would have choked to death, Mickey.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
Wow.
And again, this is all in aid of debunking the Noah story. Again, of Noah's Ark, the actual structural integrity.
Yeah.
Study by Answers in Genesis, which is a website you can go to, asserts that the Ark could have withstood waves of up to 30 meters high without overturning. 1 meters. With the entire world flooded, we would be likely to have seen waves of much greater magnitude with an unlimited fetch. Waves could put a vessel even of the most conservative of estimates, though still larger than most, if not all ships at the height of the wooden sailing era. In size would not, as the timber would have warped, water leaked in, and sunk the damn thing, saving us a lot of trouble. Now, just very quickly on that, because this is from the Rational Wiki. Now, we have oceans on end. The English... And I don't know if you knew, we didn't have metal boats until very recently. Anything before that, the Chinese, the English, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Carthaginians, right, the Phoenicians, the Romans, the Greeks, the Vikings, they all had wooden boats. Wooden boats, okay? I'm sorry. What I do care for is that it forms part of the thread of mythology that comes to us from every single culture on this planet, speaking of one aspect. We are not saying that we turned into Waterworld and that Kevin Costner turned into a fish man. Okay? That's not what we're saying here. Why do you waste your time to try to debunk a story that is in a religious book, which is fundamentally an article of faith? I never understood this, Dave. I'm
Rational Wiki should be renamed to Irrational Wiki. Crazy? The extreme turbulence would have also killed fish that stayed near the ocean floor. What extreme turbulence? Storm that's ever occurred on the didn't wipe out all life in the ocean below it?
Are you sure?
Well, no, I thank you for asking that, but I'm not actually sure. I haven't any proof. But at such lengths that they've actually done themselves an injustice. So it sounds plausible if you don't know what they're... It really does. So, look...
I know. Steve, go on. No, go ahead. Yeah, go.
No,
go.
just to wind this up. If they'd concentrated on what we've done, then it would make... Something did happen. And as Meki and I have said, this is to round it up, Meki, all the stories differ. They're not all exactly the same story. And none of the survivors of the flood stayed on Earth. No one pre-flood, as Meki said earlier, when even the children of those people who survived the flood then went on, something, it was taken away from us for some reason. Maybe we were genetically changed to re-inhabit the Earth. Maybe whoever they were before were giants. We're not giants anymore. That we're just neighboring stars. Don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the mystery. I mean, I would love to have a time machine, guys. I really would. But Steve, you're a guest. Would you like to say a few parting words on?
Yes. I think that that piece was more about looking at particular story. Let me just shoot all these holes in it because they want to undermine religious dogma as something that is kind of like a stain on an intelligent society, a rational society, if you will. And look, the church can be incredibly powerful when family structures. It influences the morals and ethics of a society. It is not to be underestimated in shaping those opinions.
Completely. So we've almost come to the end of the show. Donate. Do you know it's really important to donate? Because this is listener-funded radio. And,
yes, it is.
and we're going to be doing show 100 and... Oh, it's the...
80, 100, yeah.
That's what it is. That's the perfect... Everyone catch up with us again. There's the music.
Stay safe.
And watch out.